So this is For Honor, and it's a great game that is everything I believe a game should be. And in this response to the closed alpha, I will be addressing different aspects of the game based on my experiences, explaining some of the overall features and what I believe would be good balancing ideas, and then giving my brief conclusion on the overall game. In For Honor, we have a skill-based combat system that can provide intense moments and also the opportunity for some hilarious mistakes. I'm not going to explain the guard system in detail because there's a million videos about that already, and the overall type of combat has been discussed many times as well. I will say that the combat system is very satisfying, and I love that friendly fire is a factor in the game, as I believe it should be in many games, but unfortunately seldom ever is. I also appreciate that the different characters so far all have their own unique style or system of attacks, and I hope this is standard with the other characters we've not seen yet, rather than them just being like reskinned versions of the other faction vanguards. So the technical issues have most likely been blasted on the forums repeatedly, so I will not talk about them in like great detail, but just make note of what affected my own experiences. Most of the issues I did come across were pretty minor for an alpha. There was a visual glitch that I and many friends noticed where the samurai team in the victory screen would be like holding their swords upside down, and really this just looked funny, but it did not affect gameplay. The only issue that really had an impact on gameplay was matchmaking related. Friends lists would not update, and no one would appear online, and the only quick fix we found was restarting the app several times. The other major issues were like matchmaking related as well. They were like a party member would be left out of the game, or you just for some reason wouldn't come with us when we actually found a game. Again, restarting the app was needed to correct this, and friends list would again be a factor. This kind of thing, of course, is expected in alpha, and not too big a deal, but hopefully is worked on and addressed regardless. I would also recommend something like Rainbow Six, where if you get disconnected from a match, there's an option to join back. A lot of the time, people would be kicked out or lose connection, and there's just like no way to get back in, so they'd just be waiting around. And being separated from a group can be pretty annoying, especially since matches are pretty short, so you just lost a whole game. The overall performance was very good. There was some lag and some disconnects from host migrations, but interactions between players seemed very good in general. It is, of course, very frustrating, though, when like one of the hosts leaves, and then during migration or something there was like a disconnect, and you lose all rewards for that match. So that was like a pretty negative thing. But hopefully they can work on the host migration and make it have like a little smoother of a transition. I feel like there should also be a penalty for leaving. While there was some people who would get disconnected, there was also people who just left because they were losing badly, or I suspect a lot of the quits that disconnected everybody were people who were trying out a new character for the first time and it didn't really go very well, so they were like, screw this, and then they just kind of left. But I feel like there should be a penalty for that, because them leaving ruined the game for like everyone else. And yeah, you're doing bad, but there's no point in punishing everyone because you're not performing well or not having fun, or maybe you just had to go really fast. Maybe something came up. Another thing that would be a suggestion from Rainbow Six actually would be a ranked system. A lot of my friends were talking and saying that it might be kind of cool to have like a regular system and then have a ranked system, sort of like casual and ranked on Rainbow Six. I'm like, I don't know, I'm on the fence about that. I believe it creates both good and bad things, so I could take or leave that idea, but I just felt like I should say it because a lot of my friends thought it was a good idea. And balancing will be the next thing I'm going to talk about. Balancing is difficult in any game. There will always be pros and cons for every change you make, but here are some of the things I feel could have a more positive impact on For Honor gameplay. I really feel faction-based combat will be a must in the final game, and it is realistic to think that they just gave players access to all the factions on every map just because there were only 2 available from every faction, so this would give us a bit more freedom in our team's composition. But I feel that the endgame should have a system in place where the map determines the defending team, meaning that if that match were on a samurai map, the samurai were defending, and if the match was on a Viking map, the defending team would be Vikings, and of course the same for knights. Then the attacking team could vote on the faction they want to be. I think that would be a good system to try, because, then it would just kind of give you still that variable system to play with, but not have everything set so that it's always the same teams on the same map. That would also, in my opinion, keep coherent with the story, because all these 3 factions are at war. So another very important change, in my opinion, would be limiting the number of players that can select a certain vanguard. I'll talk more about them in a bit, but Orochis are a great example. There were many games that consisted of 4 players playing the same characters, especially Orochis. So I think limiting the max number of 2 would be necessary. This way, if people find a class to be really strong, they cannot all just be that class in every game. It would make the team comps variable, and 2 of the same class is manageable, as well as can provide an opportunity for people to still play their favorite characters if they run into an auto locker, which is someone spamming the select button to get the character they want rather than build off the team pick, which is pretty typical of randoms in every game. So speaking of Orochis, this vanguard was admittedly too strong, and it was evident in the fact that by the 3rd day of the alpha, I really did not play a single game without at least 1 or more in it. In fact, it was far more common to run into 4 of them in a group than any other character. The key reason is their ability to hit and quickly zone out of range. A very good Orochi was almost unstoppable because they could land a hit and immediately outrange you or chain very effective combos and had devastating overhands for mob fights. They also had very high mobility and a lot of counters. I truly believe there should be classes like the Orochi and Berserker that excel at offensive capabilities. However, I feel this should be at the expense of defense. These classes were very good at killing other classes, but also still took quite a bit of punishment, and did not really pay for making mistakes. This, I feel, should be changed. I feel these kind of characters should be high skill cap type of characters, but have a risk associated with being careless with them. I feel just lowering their natural defenses a bit would be the best way to adjust them, rather than condemning their attack styles or extra range that they have. Another major change I recommend for balancing purposes is related to the guard break system. There are 2 things about this that really bothered me. One was hazard related. Whenever a player was engaged near a hazard, it would usually become a shove fight, because 1-hit kills, which are terrible in my opinion, drive people to insane lengths of desperation. Just spamming the guard break over and over again, trying to nudge someone off the edge or into spikes, especially in a team fight scenario. I don't mind the hazards, but I feel that putting the guard break on a short cooldown or making it very taxing on stamina to spam would help this issue. The other issues I feel the guard break was a big factor in was revenge meter related. I feel upon the initial cast of revenge, you should be immune to guard break for a few seconds. There were several times I saw someone popping revenge, and I would simply guard break them so my teammates could get in free hits. The Raider, for example, has a perfect target to charge and knock down for the team to just kill, making it practically pointless in group scenarios, which it was designed for. In all honesty, the revenge meter was hit and miss for me to begin with. Sometimes it never seemed to be worth it because it would not knock people down spamming attacks on me, not to mention how easily it was to pop for some classes that basically made 1v1 lopsided towards, whoever's revenge was up first. I strongly feel revenge needed a limiting factor, such as multiple people had to be within a certain vicinity of you rather than an Orochi just popping it every minute to win a basic fight. Most of the other classes played out fairly well. I really was not a fan of unblockable combos, but most can be avoided if you know how to play around the characters using them. This would just be something players had to get used to and expect, but then again, there were times I would preemptively dodge a Kensai just to have his sword follow my movement and hit me still. That could be attributed to lag or other possible factors, but really it was just lame. One change I would really recommend is to make revives take away the death. This is just overall gameplay suggestion. It may seem in order to stat pad, but really it is to motivate randoms to actually revive. There were many times a teammate could have picked my friend or myself up to help them capture a zone or defend them, and there was like no incentive for the random to do that, so he just kind of ignored me and I just stayed dead. Some people were also complaining that the bots were too strong, but I'm kind of okay with that. It's kind of lame to have your team bail on you and just leave you high and dry, so having like the bots be good at killing people to me wasn't a big deal. And they were very good at killing people, but they weren't very good at like taking points or moving around the map strategically. So I can't really say that that's completely bad. I also feel the infinite run is somewhat of an issue, but at the same time changing this would alter the pace of the game, and it's really hard to decide if it would be worth it or be a terrible change in general. It was very easy to kite enemies or escape, but we also want to be able to get to the action and fight rather than slowly jog across the map just to try to like get a couple swings in and then be exhausted and not really be able to do anything, you know? As far as balancing goes, though, that was really all that I saw wrong with the game. A lot of it just played out skill-wise, or who was kind of better at reading combos, or, there was certain options that you could do, or certain people you should just avoid because it felt like they were stronger at countering your character. And that was like the same both ways, so overall I felt that this game was really done well. There was a lot of kind of doubt or worry that it was just going to be like too easy or something, but it really had some good interactions. So my conclusion for For Honor is very positive after this alpha. If you were on the fence about it, I really recommend you trying it. While the combat does have a skill cap, it is still very easy to win fights, especially when mobbing people, so even someone who may not be very good at the game can still have the opportunity to get kills. And kills in this game can be very satisfying, especially when they're like hazard kills or executions. I really liked the friendly fire aspect, even though I had several teammates kill me. It is usually more comedic than anything else. For example, when your friend accidentally knocks you off a cliff or hits you in the middle of a fight trying to get some damage in, and then, pretty much prevents you from securing a kill or gets you hit by the enemy and then you get killed because of it. Still, it promotes having a decent sense of knowledge and coordination with your teammates. And this game is a perfect example of a good game, in my opinion, rewarding skilled players and taking an interesting idea and manifesting it into something we can experience. I just hope Ubisoft can work out all the technical issues and have a smooth launch, because this game already has a lot of strengths to sell on, but bad launches really kill a game's momentum. I really wouldn't mind if they had to push it back to a late spring or early summer release, just to make sure that the game had a stable launch. Also, summer is usually a very dead time for games, so an early summer release would give everyone something to do until the fall releases start in October and November. But anyways, I'm just going to leave the clip running with some more gameplay, and I'm going to upload a lot more For Honor. I kind of found the Warden was my favorite character, so a lot of my gameplay will be that. But I'll upgrade some other clips too. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comment section, or if you had any problems with glitches or anything like that.